The rules of international order are collapsing. Today's world is no longer driven solely by tanks and bombs. Power has taken on a new form. Energy pipelines, trade corridors, supply chains, tariffs, railways, and shipping routes. These have become the new tools nations use. And one of the biggest battlefields of the future will be the corridors that connect the east of the world to the west. From a war in Ukraine to Gaza, from the Taiwan crisis to disputes in Cyprus and the Panama Canal, they all carry one message. The real battle is over routes that define the flow of energy, goods, and capital. One of the most high-profile and recent of these routes is the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, which also passes through the Middle East crossroads. But what hidden motives lie behind this economic project that make it so important? What makes IMEC so heavily supported by the United States? And why do China and many other countries see its launch as a threat to their own interests? West Asia, as always, is the starting point of crises. It's no coincidence that Donald Trump's very first foreign trip as U.S. president was to the Persian Gulf. That trip, in 2025, led to deals worth $3.2 trillion. And it was there that Washington unveiled its answer to China's flagship corridor initiative, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI.
Finally, we agreed to work together to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all of history.
The India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, aiming to connect India through the Gulf to Israel and then Europe. IMEC starts in India, passes through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel, and eventually reaches Europe. Washington knows it cannot reclaim its dominance over other powers with tariffs alone. That's why two other critical competitions are underway, one over new trade corridors and another over maritime routes. Economic corridors are nothing new. For example, around 2,000 years ago, the ancient Silk Road created a pathway for economic and even cultural integration between East and West. It connected China through Central Asia and Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean. In the modern world, corridors have also played a key role. The spark that triggered World War II, Germany's invasion of Poland, was Poland's refusal to return the Danzig corridor. But the most headline-grabbing corridor of recent years has been the Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013 by Xi Jinping, a corridor that, if realized, threatens American hegemony. That's because a completed BRI would reduce the role of the US dollar in international trade. It would also reshape the geopolitics of trade and energy transport, shifting it away from its current sea-based system, controlled largely by US fleets, to land-based routes. And that means the U.S. would no longer be able to easily blockade China with its navy in times of economic or military crisis. Most importantly, it raises the risk of a rival political and economic bloc emerging outside Western leadership. IMEC is a structure designed entirely to bypass China's BRI. In reality, the U.S. hopes to use this corridor both to reclaim its influence and to contain China's ambitions. Washington fully understands that part of the West's needs must inevitably be supplied from the East, needs that China has been meeting until now. But America has decided to shift that responsibility to India instead. Yet the road to making IMEC a reality is anything but smooth. India, a founding partner and enthusiastic supporter of IMEC, saw it as a chance to expand trade and showcase its infrastructure ambitions. But New Delhi's close ties with Tel Aviv, especially amid Israel's attacks on Gaza, have disillusioned key players in West Asia. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, all official stakeholders in IMEC, face immense public pressure not to cooperate with the occupying state. The idea of jointly investing in a corridor passing through Israeli territory, while Tel Aviv was actively bombing Iran, Yemen, Syria, and massacring Palestinians, has become politically toxic in the Arab world. Even before this, IMEC faced serious chances of failure. Officially, it's members of the US, the EU, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, France, Germany, and Italy. But each has different agendas. India wants to boost exports. Saudi Arabia wants to become the logistics powerhouse of the region. France and Italy want to balance Germany's dominance in the EU. The US is focused solely on blocking China and containing Iran. Their only shared goal is to suppress alternative multipolar projects not led by the West. But here lies the contradiction. India, one of IMEC's loudest champions, is itself a core member of BRICS alongside China, helping to build a non-Western economic bloc. And the contradictions don't stop there. The two Gulf kingdoms critical to IMEC's route, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, are geopolitical rivals. Riyadh has imposed tariffs on Emirati goods from free zones like Jebel Ali. The personal rivalry between Mohammed bin Salman and Mohammed bin Zayed over regional leadership prevents a unified approach. These moves are part of bin Salman's broader economic plan to turn Saudi Arabia into a regional market hub like the UAE. This rivalry, combined with Saudi efforts to divert foreign investment away from other GCC states, makes building a joint tariff system, let alone a shared trade corridor, extremely difficult. Another challenge is money. G7 leaders promised $600 billion under the PGI framework for infrastructure in the global south, but these pledges have never materialized. India, despite its economic optimism, is showing signs of export fatigue. Europe's economies, burdened by military spending after the Ukraine war, have little appetite for another costly adventure. So far, Saudi Arabia has pledged $20 billion. That's just a fraction of the $600 billion expected from IMEC partners by 2027. The project's Memorandum of Understanding imposes no binding financial commitments, and the bulk of the burden is expected to fall on the G7, a group already struggling with stagnant economies and heavy defense budgets. Greece's situation adds more complexity. Athens hopes to boost the port of Piraeus, but China's COSCO hold a majority stake there, giving Beijing direct influence over a key IMEC hub, creating a conflict of interest at the very heart of the corridor. Italy and France, both IMEC partners, have even proposed alternative routes to bypass Piraeus, highlighting the fragility of European consensus. Even if political will existed, the physical structure of the corridor is highly incomplete. Between the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Israel lies a 1,000-kilometer rail gap across unforgiving desert terrain. There's still no agreement on common standards for rail gauge, shipping containers, or customs regulations. Fiber optic networks, energy grids, and hydrogen pipelines remain little more than aspirations. In the end, IMEC is a project conceived in Washington think tanks, not in the capitals of the region. It faces powerful rivals like China's BRI, the Development Road, and Arctic routes, each backed by major global and regional powers. Whether Washington can clear the obstacles and push IMEC forward will help define the balance of global power in the years to come. Time will tell.